We have been talking about specific pieces tied to XRP that Ripple really has been announcing and pushing onto the XRP ledger for a bit of time now. And this is all through Ripple X Dev. Now, if you focus on those puzzle pieces, if you focus on what they've been announcing so far, this year, you will understand their end goal, which is institutional grade adoption. It's all based around institutional DeFi, and that's why we focus on RWA tokenization. That's why we focus on stablecoins. Why? Well, because again, if we're thinking about RWA value, if we're thinking about stablecoins is the enabler, right? That's the liquidity for tokenization use cases at scale. So if you want to bring stocks on chain, for example, and you want to have 24/7, 365 trading of stocks, you want to borrow and lend against stocks as well. That's only made possible if you have an extremely liquid stablecoin tied to the underlying network. Okay, well, now we have that side of the story, but what about institutional DeFi? Again, if we're thinking about institutional DeFi, it kind of goes hand in hand with what I just said, right? You have lending and borrowing, you have liquidity pools, you have all of these things that require liquidity. I mean, even liquidity pools, they have the word liquidity in them. It's requiring stablecoins to be tied to those, pools. So again, if we're thinking about that, stablecoins almost enable all of this, which is why we focus on ROUSD so much. But then, okay, you have the stablecoin, you have that liquidity. What else do we need? Well, there's a few things. And in this video, I want to go over that, but I also want to go over custody. And I want to go over a lot more that's been happening and also confirmation from a Ripple employee about what we can expect going forward. So let's dive on in real quick. So $313 million is tied to XRP currently. This is, RWA value. $313 million, $197 million worth of stablecoins as well. 18 RWAs on chain, 4 stablecoins currently. And we can see where all of this value is coming from, especially in the last 30 days. Right now, Braza Crypto just also released their BBRL stablecoin. This is $191 million tied to just one single stablecoin. Now, I don't think that this has been added to the stablecoin value up here, because if we're thinking about this is $191 million. Then you have almost $100 million tied to ROUSD. Then you also have a few other stablecoins like USDC, which is only about 2.5 million. But again, this is a massive amount of money tied back to a single stablecoin on chain. Now, on top of that, we've been seeing some other growth, like for example, Open Eden with their T-bills. And we can see the T-bill here. This is up 2.71% in the last 7 days, but it's up 70, almost 3% in the last 30 days. And this is sitting around currently 78.5 million. Okay, all right, that's a significant amount of adoption and growth. And then we also have ROUSD, 30% in the last 30 days. Nothing too crazy, almost $100 million. And then we have a few other ones that are kind of growing here. I mean, 2.5 and 4.3 million is not that much, but hey, we're starting to see a lot more growth here. And we're starting to see a lot more assets tied to the XRP ledger as well. That's kind of giving us this, full-on ecosystem of RWA assets that are completely diverse in their own ways. So we love to see that. Now, on top of this, we have over here from Krippenreiter. This is the overview of the XRP ledger currently. Private credit, 135 million. US Treasuries, 116 million. Stablecoins, again, this is questionable because we don't have, the entire value here, but it seems as though it's well over at this point, almost, $300 million, which is shocking if you think about it for the XRP ledger. And the growth around stablecoins have been extremely bullish for XRP. And then we also have stocks, 55.4 million, and then real estate, 4.3 million. So again, these have been growing steadily over the last couple, weeks, which is exactly what we want to see. Now, if we're thinking about this, just like I said, what is enabling all of this to happen? Well, it's the key pieces tied to the XRP ledger, especially a lot of those amendments and those, major announcements that have happened so far this year. We mainly go back to like the AMM, the permission DEX, the credentials, all of that stuff. That's enabling a lot more growth happening on the XRP ledger, because those are crucial pieces for these institutional players to have in place because of regulations. So if we're thinking about that, a lot of this growth is probably going to just continue to surge more and more, especially with a lot more of these recent announcements and also the growth of the stablecoins on the XRP ledger as well. But we just got this update from XRP Scan, which is credentials. The amendment is now active on the XRP ledger mainnet. This is a crucial piece tied to the permission DEX, which we'll talk about here in a second. But vet_x0 did say another compliance amendment activated on the XRP ledger because, again, these institutional players, these massive names, they need all of this in place to be fully compliant. So decentralized identity, credentials, permission domains, permission DEX, we are getting there. The first credential has also been created. So this is good. This is very good to see. This is a lot. I mean, the traction here has been kind of crazy over the last couple months. I mean, there's been more growth and more moves being made around the XRP ledger in just like the last 12 months than we've seen in like the last 3 years. And I know that that's crazy to say, but it's true. Go back 3 years ago. There really wasn't a lot happening like this around the XRP ledger. So we love this. Core pieces are being added. This is going to enable some of the largest use cases that we talk about quite often on the channel, actually. And this is all tied back to that permission DEX. Remember, this was on June 25th. Introducing permission DEX on the XRP ledger, unlocking institutional access to DeFi. Again, Ripple has been talking about institutional DeFi almost this entire year. Okay, it's because of trillions of dollars being tied to institutional DeFi. These institutional players are not going to bring a couple 100,000, a couple million, a couple, 100 million to these networks. No. They see how efficient these networks are. They see the use cases that are enabled on these networks. So they want to bring trillions to these networks. That's why institutional DeFi is such a game changer. And then if we're thinking about them bringing money on chain to DeFi, guess what? It's not just going to sit there. It's going to be lent, borrowed against, traded, swapped. Think about this. It's a multiplier effect of whatever value is moving on chain. So we love this. And again, when we think about the XRP ledger, they already said that the XRP ledger is built for this type of use case. Now, they did break down what exactly a permission DEX is. We've already gone over this, so I don't want to, harp on about it too much. But if we're thinking about this permission DEX, it has everything that's needed for these players to tap in. Right? Because you have all of those requirements that are needed to be fully compliant. So you have KYC, AML policies tied to it. You have the credentials, you have all of those things that really just are compliant pieces. So again, if we're thinking about this, this solves all of these problems. It introduces a new way to build compliance-focused trading environments inside the XRP ledger's native DEX without compromising on decentralization, cost efficiencies, or user control. Institutions can now create permission order books tied to verified credentials, ensuring that only authorized participants can interact with specific markets. So this is going to be a game changer. It's a massive game changer. It's something that enables some of those big use cases that everyone keeps saying, this will make XRP so expensive. Yeah, this enables that. But also, the XRP ledger has been battle tested and operating continuously without an issue since inception in 2012. This is a very important thing to realize because, again, these institutional players are not just going to choose a new chain because, oh, look, it's flashy, it's new. No, they want to tap into something that is fully battle tested, that has been operating continuously without any issues. That's the XRP ledger. Now, let's go over here to what we just witnessed from this interview. This is with Token Relations. This is Q3 updates. This video is 50 minutes long. I'm not playing this video for you guys. In fact, I want to give a big shout out to Neatsbucks as well as Riz XRP. Neatsbucks gave us a breakdown of this. There was a lot in this call worth analyzing. The main takeaway is that Ripple is the leading partner for banks and financial institutions to work with for compliant institutional DeFi at scale. Major thing to focus on, especially if we're thinking about what Ripple has been doing with institutional DeFi, pushing it all onto the XRP ledger. This comes from a combination of a full suite of products from XRP, custody, payments, stablecoins, prime brokerage, a suite of best-in-class regulatory licenses and simple strategic education from being an expert since 2012, i.e. partner with us. We have all the products and we'll teach you how to do whatever you want in a compliant way at scale. The other key point is, for this grand institutional DeFi vision to grow, XRP Ledger needs new features. Many are in the works, allowing the XRP Ledger to offer the best of both worlds for both permissionless and permissioned DEX. Key points. XRP Ledger is the foundation for everything Ripple builds and does. XRP Ledger is the leading choice for institutional DeFi. Ripple wants to expand XRP Ledger to on-chain repos and on-chain DVP, delivery versus payment. Ripple is building ready-made solutions for institutions that 10x the solution to their problem. XRP isn't going anywhere. It's embedded into the XRP Ledger, from gas to requirement to open an account to auto bridging on the native DEX. On the custody side, clients want to be able to hold XRP. On payment side, Ripple has 90 global corridors, and whether a client leverages XRP or RLUSD depends on the currencies involved, and it depends on the preference of the client. Some want to use XRP, some want the stability of a stablecoin. Ripple products have the flexibility to make customers happy on the last mile payment. Ripple believes becoming a national trust bank will really incentivize new clients overseas who deal with various regulators, i.e. legitimacy. On RLUSD, Tether is the largest and retail prefers it, but as institutions pour in looking for stablecoins, RLUSD is licensed in New York, which again, this is the gold standard, and Ripple has a fiduciary responsibilities that comes with their license, which they feel institutions will prefer. On-chain FX, access to liquidity, etc. are all exciting, but institutions won't use an unregulated DEX. Permission domains and permission DEX means compliant regulated DEX trading on the XRP Ledger for the first time. While other chains have tried this, there's usually no liquidity. The proposed XRP Ledger designs works with permission and permissionless DEX, so liquidity exists in both sides. Up for a vote soon. And by the way, that's why I do think that RLUSD is really growing right now in a big way. That's going to be the liquidity for this. So liquidity is going to be solved, which is going to solve the major issue that all of these other chains have ran into. Credit origination protocol, on-chain loans where collateral sits with an off-chain custodian. Programmable escrows, adding a layer of programmability, making them smart to work for trade finance. Ripple has an acute focus on serving institutions. Ripple Suite is highly compliant, purpose-built for institutions. Ripple wants to find a way to use zero knowledge on the XRP Ledger for private transactions. Prime brokers are specifically not looking to expose data of clients, so improving privacy on the XRP Ledger is huge. Ripple has a great reputation as a trusted provider of digital asset services since 2012. They are the leader in best-in-class licenses. They have the end-to-end product. They have everything all in one place that an institutional player could want to do. Regulatory tailwinds means that the water is safe to come in as the infrastructure is more robust and a stablecoin is more customer-friendly with less risk. Therefore, the Ripple offering is more compelling than ever. Banks and financial institutions are looking for a partner. Starting from scratch is hard, and having a partner who knows how to do it in a compliant manner is so important. No one else in crypto has the tech stack and the expertise to this level. Ripple is the leader in knowing how to go from A to Z in crypto at scale. Ripple will lead institutional DeFi on the XRP Ledger, and the XRP Ledger will keep expanding with new features to support this compliantly. Basically, every sophisticated financial use case will be modernized on the XRP Ledger for the world's biggest players to adopt. And yes, this is so crucial, and I want you guys to realize that all of this, every single thing that was mentioned in this post is true. This is why Ripple is going to absolutely dominate institutional DeFi. This is what's going to bring trillions onto the XRP Ledger. This is what's going to make XRP itself worth trillions of dollars. Now listen closely to what we see over here. This is with Jazzy Cooper from Ripple. There's also a few other employees here as well, like Jack McDonald, for example. Big shout out to RizXRP for this video clip. Check it out, guys.
When people talk about Ripple's role in payments and liquidity, they often bring up RLUSD and XRP. How do you kind of think about their distinct roles in the ecosystem, and why does having both matter?
I'm sure we can all chime in here. I'll take a first stab, but just for anyone on the in the audience who may not and there's often some confusion between the two. XRP, the native token on the XRP ledger. Put that over there. And that's a kind of traditional cryptocurrency. RLUSD, a dollar-backed stablecoin issued by Ripple. And the more and more activity, and we issued RLUSD natively on the XRP ledger out of the gates. The more activity, every time we mint RLUSD on the XRP ledger, every time there's a transaction on the XRP ledger, XRP is the native gas token, has utility. It's the grease in the wheels, if you will, that makes everything work. And so as we've grown from 0 to almost 700 million here, there's a lot of activity that is a result of that happening on the XRP ledger that in turn is using XRP as that bridge asset. As it relates to payments, the last thing I would say, there are some customers who want to continue to use a cryptocurrency as a bridge asset. XRP really purpose-built, among other things, for being a bridge asset on the payments platform. There are other customers who, for any number of different reasons, don't want to use a cryptocurrency or don't like the volatility that's inherent in often crypto. The stablecoin presents a very compelling alternative, given it's very boring. It's always worth $1, and so there are many customers who just prefer that, or TradFi customers who, for whatever reason, can't or just weren't comfortable using a crypto asset, but a stablecoin I think of as really the least crypto type of crypto there is, and so we're seeing a lot of interest in using stablecoins there.
I can give quick 2 cents on the XRP ledger side and hand to Cassie. I mean, XRP is not going anywhere. It's embedded within the XRP ledger. So Jack mentioned transaction fees. XRP is burned on it, every transaction that happens on the XRP ledger. It's also used as account reserves. So reserves to open an account, reserves to hold a certain amount of objects in your account. And then it's also used as a bridge asset built into the native decentralized exchange. So it offers, if there isn't liquidity between, Canadian dollar and Japanese yen, that'll automatically bridge through XRP through a feature called auto bridging. So from an infrastructure perspective, it's not going anywhere when the XRP ledger is used. And then, as Jack mentioned, in use cases like payments, for example, where you do want that stability, RLUSD and stablecoins are a nice option for that.
And I think then just more generally on our products and services here at Ripple, from a custody perspective, we want to be able to, our customers want to be able to hold XRP. And our customers also want to be able to offer stablecoins. So having that breadth and depth of ledger support and also token support is really important for competitiveness, but also just being flexible for our customers. On the payment side, of course, we started out by really focusing on moving value through XRP. And feedback from our customers was that in some scenarios, their preference would be to leverage stablecoins for those payments. So the Ripple payment product that can now process, from a global perspective in 90 corridors, it's done over $70 billion. There's a variation of what that looks like in terms of whether or not we're leveraging XRP or leveraging stablecoins for those payments, and it really does frankly depend on what currency and the preference of the customer. I think our goal really is to solve customer problems and to say yes more to customers, the products have the flexibility in terms of how they can deliver that last mile.
And again, listening to these types of discussions, again, these are Ripple employees telling us exactly what they are fully focused on, what they are doing currently, what they're working towards. But listening into these conversations, these are high tier conversations. And what I mean by that is we're not having these employees from a blockchain based company sitting here saying, oh, hey, we want to focus on meme coins, or hey, we want to focus on, a meme coin casino launching, or hey, we want to launch a crypto phone. No, it's not hype-driven announcements or discussions. It's legitimate, mature, extremely, and when I say extremely traditional conversations, what I mean by that is these are the types of conversations that you would hear or expect to hear from big asset management companies, big institutional players, banks. Guys, this is a blockchain-based company. When I say that, I want you guys to realize the level in which Ripple is operating on. They're not operating on a traditional crypto-based company's level. They are operating on the level of institutional players and banks. This is what sets Ripple apart from the rest in the space. This is why I believe in what RLUSD can become. This is why I believe in the XRP ledger. This is why I believe in XRP, because they are positioning the XRP ledger and XRP at the forefront of institutional DeFi, which is not just a billion-dollar business. No, it's going to be a multi-trillion-dollar plus business. Tokenization, right? We keep hearing about, oh yeah, it's going to reach 16 trillion by this and that. Guys, those tokenization values are tied back to institutional players bringing that money on chain. It's not just going to sit there. There's going to be markets built around these. We're going to have the stock market on chain. And when I say the stock market, I mean everything tied back to the stock market. 24/7 trading, 365. This is going to result in a absolute massive amount of value and volume moving over these public networks. And when I say that, I mean the XRP ledger, guys, which is going to impact XRP in a huge way, creating a very expensive XRP. And that's just facts. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out, guys.